Welcome back everybody, my name is Tucker, and in today's video I am continuing my series in which I am ranking the starting NBA positions, and today we're going to be doing power forwards, even though the power forward position doesn't really exist anymore, and I normally just refer to these guys as 1 through 5s. We can just call them the starting fours of the league that we're going to rank here today. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy the NBA, then consider subscribing. I upload basically every single day. Okay, so if you've missed some of these videos in the past, essentially here are all of the players that are considered power forwards in the league. This is not my list. This is off of tiermaker that someone else made, but I thought this was a fair representation of the power forwards throughout the league. And then you have your categories here: superstar, all NBA, all the way down to bump. Really quickly, just to get things out of the way, we're going to go ahead and put Anthony Davis and Giannis Antetokounmpo in the superstar category. We'll come back to those guys later in terms of where I rank them, but there really isn't a need to waste time on those guys when we get there later on. So the first one up that we're going to take seriously here is going to be Giannis Sabonis, who made an all-star team this year, and so I'm going to put him in the all-star category. I think that he can really finish inside, has some post moves, has a nice connection with Malcolm Brogdon there in Indiana. We still kind of need to figure out the Miles Turner, Giannis Sabonis situation in the front court there in Indiana, but as a player that made an all-star team, I'm going to put Giannis Sabonis in the all-star category. Big surprise there. Next up now is Taurean Prince, and I'm actually kind of down on Taurean Prince. Coming into this season for the Nets, I thought he was going to be a pretty impactful player. Traded from Atlanta, signed a new contract, and just didn't really have a very good year. And probably should be playing more the 3 than the 4, but he had to play a lot of the 4 this year for the Nets because they just didn't really have anybody else there. I'm going to put him tentatively in the starter category, but if he has another year this coming season like he did last year, he's going to be a bench guy for me moving forward. Next up now, Pascal Siakam is pretty easily in the All-NBA category for me. I'm not going to go superstar with him, but I think that he's an all-star caliber, an All-NBA caliber player. I don't think that he's a guy that you can completely build your team around like Giannis and like Anthony Davis moving forward, but a very, very good player and someone that is going to go in the All-NBA category. Next up now, Jason Tatum is going to go. I think I put him all. I can't remember. I did this for the small forward video. Some of these guys overlap. I put him and Brandon Ingram in the same place, and I think I put them both in All-Star. I'm just going to leave him there in the interest of being consistent. Next up now, Lauri Markkanen, another player kind of like Taurean Prince that had a down year this year. I still believe in Lauri Markkanen, and I'm going to put him in the starter category. But again, if he has a really bad year next year, once again, I'm going to really start to question my stance on Lauri Markkanen. Next up now, John Collins is another player that I'm going to put in the starter category. I don't think that he is an all-star caliber guy. I understand the numbers that he puts up, but I don't think he has a huge impact defensively, is working on his offensive skills in terms of his three-point shooting and things like that. But as of right now, for me, he's too limited in terms of his size on the defensive end to be considered an all-star caliber player, even though he does put up really good numbers. That could always change, but right now I'm putting him in the starter category. And now we get to Jaren Jackson Jr., and this is one of my favorite players in the entire league. I thought that he was the second best player in his draft class the year that he came out. I had Luka 1 and him number 2. And I think in terms of impact, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a borderline all-star caliber player. But he's not quite there yet, so I don't feel comfortable putting him in the all-star category. He is going to go starter, but it's only because it just hasn't happened yet. I think he's an all-star caliber player moving forward. Next up now, PJ Washington. Had an okay year for Charlotte this year, had a really good start to the season in terms of his shooting. I'm going to put him in the bench category only because I'd like to see him prove it on a bit of a longer term. But I do think that he's a good player, can be a starting caliber player moving forward, but for now, he's going to go on the bench. Next up now, Zion. This is obviously a really tough one. The amount of games that we've seen this guy play is so small that it's really tough to go back and say, oh, he's going to be this kind of player, or he was this type of player. But in terms of the production that he was putting up in that small sample size, I think that if he had done that throughout the entire season, he would have been an all-star player. And so I'm going to put him in the all-star category. Next up now, Rudy Gay, a nice bench player for me, but nothing more. Someone that can defend a little bit, can shoot a little bit, and can do a little bit of playmaking on the ball, but nothing crazy impactful. Next up now, Paul Millsap is going to go in the starter category. Has fallen off a little bit since his days in Atlanta, has struggled with some injuries since he's been in Denver, but still a nice versatile front court player that can defend and can make some shots from the outside and still has a little bit of offensive game as well. Nice player there. Next up now, Al Horford, similar thing. Guy that's kind of fallen off, but I still think is a starting caliber player. Defensively isn't nearly as good as he used to be, but still a good defensive player and someone that can space the floor for you a little bit as well. Not going to give you a ton of production offensively, but still a quality starter in the NBA, as is Kevin Love. We're doing kind of a run on older, big guys that used to be kind of all-star caliber players here. Kevin Love is another guy that I still think is a starter and can make some shots for you. Never has been a very good defensive player, but in the right situation, I think can still be a really, really good starter, even though his contract and things like that are really bad. Next up now, Danilo Gallinari, another guy that is a starter for me moving forward. Can shoot the ball, can score it, brings nice size as well at about 6'10". Never going to be a great defensive player, but can make some shots for you and do a little bit of on-ball creation as well. And we are continuing our run on starting caliber players. Next up now, Blake Griffin, and this is an incredibly tough one because the games that Blake Griffin played this year, I mean, he was hurt, obviously, but the games that he played, he looked like a bum or a bench player. And, whether we're ever going to see star Blake Griffin again is really up in the air right now with these injury things. I'm going to put him in the starter category because I don't feel comfortable putting him any lower than that given his past production, and if he does come back healthy, he's going to be a nice player. But my expectations for Blake Griffin are much, much lower now than they were in the past. Next up now, James Johnson. He's just a nice little bench player there. I don't really need to talk about that for too long. Next up now, Nemanja Bjelica. I know I'm mispronouncing his name. I do it every single time. I think that he is also a nice bench player. Can really shoot the ball, but is not going to provide too much else other than that, and I'm going to put him there. Same thing with Marcus Morris here. Bench player, can really score the ball, bring some versatility, some nice defensive presence as well, but not someone that I personally want starting for my team in a situation where I'm trying to win a championship, right? Like he hijacks the ball too much. He takes too many questionable shots. I'd rather him come off the bench and do that in the second unit rather than when my best players are on the floor. Next up now, Bogdanovic is going to go once again in the starter category. Doesn't quite have the ceiling of being an all-star level player, but still a nice guy that can make some shots and do some things for you on the ball as well. Davis Bertans, another guy that I'm going to put in the starting category just because he can absolutely shoot the ball extremely well and extremely high volume, and that is so valuable in today's NBA that I think he has to be a starter. Next up now, Jay Crowder is going to go on the bench as well. Can defend, can shoot, a 3-and-D player, but not someone that I would want starting for my team ideally. Next up now, Draymond Green is going to go in the all-star category, even though, yes, some things have declined for him, and he doesn't look as good when there aren't crazy levels of talent around him. He still can play make, he still can defend, he still can push the ball in transition, he can still occasionally make some shots, and I really like what Draymond Green brings and provides, and I do still think that he is an all-star caliber player. Next up now, Robert Covington, a guy that is a starter for me. 3-and-D player, can defend, can knock down some shots, and outside of that, I'm not going to ask him to do too much. Next up now, Aaron Gordon, a guy that I'm going to put in the starter category, but is dangerously close to becoming a bench player based off of his production last year. Hopefully it's just a situational thing, and once things get a little bit better in Orlando, his production will be better, but things were not pretty at all last year for Aaron Gordon. Next up now, Julius Randle, another guy that I am going to put in the starter category. Clearly has talent, clearly can produce points at a high volume, but whether that is going to translate to winning is questionable moving forward, but still talent-wise, I think that he is a starting caliber player. Next up now, Dario Saric, someone that I think can still be a good player moving forward as a playmaker in the front court. Hasn't shown that to this point, and since he has left Philadelphia, just hasn't been a great NBA player. Solid bench guy, can knock down some shots, but right now, that's kind of all that he is. Next up now, Kristaps Porzingis. I want to put him in the All-NBA category, but I'm going to go All-Star here just because of some of the health question marks moving forward. If he stays healthy, I think he is an All-NBA caliber player. I'm just kind of in wait-and-see mode on that. And then Carmelo Anthony now in 2020 for me is a bench player. Can score for you, can do some things, but is mostly a six-man scoring type player for me personally. In an ideal scenario, I know that he has started for Portland at times, but that is more out of necessity and desperation than anything else. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying these types of videos. Obviously, I will be doing centers next, and then I will be bringing back, these kinds of ranking videos periodically as well down the road with different kinds of things. If you guys would like to make a list of your own and use this exact same template, I will leave a link to this down in the description so that you guys can take a look at it and check it out. But yeah, that's my ranking of all the power forwards in the NBA. Like I said, that's going to be the end of today's video. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.